Hello students, welcome back to your English grammar class. Let us continue with the previous chapter, that is chapter 6, conditionals. So in the last class we have discussed that there are basically four different types of conditional sentences, out of which the first two kinds of conditional sentences, that is which is also known as type 0 and type 1, we have already discussed. Today let us go through type 2 and type 3. Okay, the remaining two different types of conditional sentences, we will see what are those, where are they used, and also the certain criteria of its uses. So type 2, which is the third kind of conditional sentences, this is basically a kind of improbable conditional, which means unlikely conditional. Unlikely, as you know, it is not a kind of that, it is not going to happen. Unlikely. For example, in this type of conditional sentences, that is type 2, it expresses a kind of imaginary situations and speculates about their imaginary consequences. Okay, so as I told you that a conditional sentences has got two clauses, that is the if clause and the main clause. So here in the if clause we express imaginations, okay, the imaginary situations, and in the main clause the consequences, the imaginary consequences of it. Now let me give you an example so that you have a better understanding of this type 2 conditional sentences, or the third form of conditional sentences. For example, say if I talk about, or if I give an example, if I had wings I would fly. Now see, the if clause, it's an imaginary situation. If I had wings, if I had imagination, we don't have, human being doesn't have wings, right? So what would have been the consequences then? What, look at the main clause. If I had wings I would fly. Okay, but in reality what happens is that I don't have wings. So the if clause is actually presenting a kind of an unreal situation. All right, type 3, I hope you got it. Another example, if I were a bird I would fly very high. But where is the practicality? In reality it is, I am not a bird, correct? So likewise, let me give you one more example. If she saw a ghost, she would scream. Imagination, if she saw a ghost. But we do not expect, that she will see a ghost. That is the reality. So I hope you got this, what do you mean by improbable or unlikely conditional, correct? The if clause is actually, that presents what? It presents unreal situation, okay, and it is improbable, it is unlikely that the action in the if clause will take place, and that is why we call it improbable. All right, now the tense which you have to use while expressing this improbable conditional sentences is that if will always be there because conditional sentence, so the if clause, and with it there must be simple past along with the word would. I repeat, if as usual and simple past plus the word would. Okay, now this improbable or unlikely conditional we can also use in the main clause. There are other words such as might or could instead of would. Now there are certain situations where you can use might or could instead of the word would. Let me give an example. If I know his address, I might parcel to him, or I could parcel to him. Okay, there you don't have to use the word would. Or another example, say if I had money I might buy a car. or I could buy a car. Alright? Now, one more point which you need to take note while expressing improbable conditional sentences is that in the if clause, we can use the pattern where plus to and along with it in addition the infinitive. Example, if I were to go to a hill station, I would go to Mussoorie. Or if she were to win a lottery, she would be a rich woman. Okay, so these are the certain criteria which you need to take note of while expressing a sentence in the form of improbable conditional. Okay, the next type of conditional sentence, which is also called type 3, is the impossible conditional. Now in this conditional sentences, what happens is that the verb in the if clause is in the past perfect tense. Alright, as we have already discussed tenses. And what about the verb in the main clause? The verb in the main clause is actually the perfect conditional. So that is why what happens, as I told you, the verb in the if clause is in the past perfect tense. So what happens is that the time is past and the condition cannot be fulfilled. And because why it cannot be fulfilled? Because the action in the if clause did not happen past. If, correct? Impossible. Now you cannot make it possible. Time is past, and we know all. Once a time passes away, we can never get it back. Example, let me give you. If you had worked, you would have succeeded. If you had, H-A-D, had worked, W-O-R-K-E-D, you would have succeeded. But see, what does the sentence mean? It actually means you did not work hard, so you did not succeed. And that time has already passed. Another example, if I had watered these seeds regularly, they would have sprouted. If I had, it happened in the past. You cannot bring it back. It's impossible to bring it back now. So which means, since I did not water them regularly, so they did not sprout. Okay? So this type of sentences, it refer to the past time. And as I told you, the action which is expressed in the if clause did not happen. Since the time is already over and it cannot happen now. So therefore, it is not possible to fulfill the condition expressed in the if clause. And that is why we say such type of sentences as impossible conditional sentences or type 3. And the tense which you need to take note while expressing impossible in conditional sentences is that, yes, if, along with that past perfect, and also you can use the words such as would or could, in addition, have and past participle. Alright. Impossible conditional sentences also can be expressed, without using the word if. But in that case, what if we omit the word if, we have to begin the sentence with had. Example, see, had you worked hard, you would have succeeded, which means the same. But here we are not using the word, or we are not using the if clause. The same previous example, if I transform it without using the if clause and replacing it by had, then we can frame it in this way. Had you watered these seeds regularly, they would have sprouted. Alright, so I hope by now you got the 4 different kinds of conditional sentences, which is also described said in the form of, or described in the form of type 0, 1, 2 and 3. So go through your text, okay, and complete your assignments, whatever will be assigned to you, classwork and homework both, as per your allotted time. And in case if you have any query or doubt, please feel free to get back to me. God bless you. Study well.